اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي أما بعد. My dearest brothers, we begin by thanking Allah Jalla wa Ala, who has given us the tawfiq to gather here in a very, very blessed gathering, the gathering of knowledge. As per usual, what we will do inshallah is have a quick introduction. I know most of the brothers, but it will be quite good just to get comfortable if we introduce ourselves inshallah. But before that, after we want to mention something.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Jazakallah khair, inshallah. No, don't see that's fine. We just need to film him, that's all. Alhamdulillah, this is really good. I'm really excited that we've got this started. I know you guys are as well, inshallah. So this is our first session. Just a bit of formalities. There's obviously a couple of brothers here who haven't obviously didn't notify me, but that's not a problem. I'll put you on the list afterwards if you just remind me. I'll put you in the WhatsApp group because we've got a WhatsApp group for this specifically. So inshallah I'll put you on there. There is a fee, obviously £20 from the brothers, so whoever hasn't paid, pay me afterwards inshallah. The booklets in front of you, there's no cost for that. I made them last night, there's no cost for those booklets in front of you. Yeah, and that's really it. I don't want to take too much time. The only thing is we'll try and keep it, to the time as much as possible, but obviously some of the brothers have come late anyway, and Maghrib is going to get in the way, so we might continue 20 minutes perhaps after Maghrib, inshallah, if you can stay back. We're going to be, for the brothers specifically who are part of this course, like I said on the group, very important that you don't miss any sessions. If there is a Sharia reason for you to miss a session, then I'm recording the sessions and I will let you have the recording. So the session that you miss, inshallah, that will be recorded so that you don't miss out on the knowledge element of it. But please try and be here in person, inshallah. Apart from that, any questions? No questions, inshallah? Okay, I'll hand over to Ustad and the rest is up to you.
I think the first sitting here, especially for brothers with professional backgrounds, sitting in a setting like this after such a long time might feel a bit odd. It must give us, we must reminisce and gives us some memories of our childhood. Perhaps those of us who studied in madrasa. But alhamdulillah, this is one of the more correct ways of seeking knowledge, inshallah. You see, when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam he migrated to Medina, they didn't have chairs and tables. Rather, they were people that were very much attached to the earth. So they would sit on the floor. And sitting on the floor, actually, a scientific proof is it brings more humility and humbleness. Inshallah, I think. If our intention is correct, inshallah, then our purpose should be to bring more humility and humbleness, inshallah. By sitting here is not to make anyone feel less degraded or anything, okay? So let us begin, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I want us to begin with a very nice poem written by Imam As-Sa'di, Imam Abdul Rahman As-Sa'di. By the way, today is the introduction, so we're going to be very relaxed. It's not going into this book. This is the book that we're going to be covering, inshallah, over the weeks. Fiqh Sunnah by Sayyid Sabiq, a very, very good book and a very easy book. So those who understand Arabic, he wrote this book for a person who understands Arabic on a normal level. Even though this book consists of many weak narrations and many problematic things, these are the things that we will avoid, but we will focus on the Masail, the very important rules. The two areas that we're going to be covering, inshallah, is Kitab al-Salah and Kitab al-Nikah. These are very broad areas. I don't think we can study these two subjects within 2 years. But what we plan to do is cover certain aspects of Kitab al-Salah, such as wiping over normal socks, Qira'ah khalf al-Imam, reciting behind the Imam, Rafu Yadayn, whether raising the hands. These are the mas'ala we often find much confusion amongst people. Many of us don't know the evidence behind it, hence we find ourselves taking the harsh approach. Those who practice it, they think that is the only way, there is not another option, so on and so forth. So I think it's very important that we cover these very important aspects that are very related to our time, to clarify certain things, and especially for those of us who practice certain aspects of the hadith, it is essential that we know the evidence behind it. Many of us place our hands, for example, under our navel. We don't even know the evidence behind it. And it's a must that we know, especially all those aspects related to ibadah, the evidence is behind it. So these are the areas that we're going to be touching upon, inshallah. But today, if you open this book here, this booklet here, inshallah. If we go to page, I should have put the page numbers, let's just say page 3. So it'll be more the development of fiqh. So the evolution of fiqh, how fiqh started, especially touching upon the life of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then the period of the Khulafa and the generation after them, inshallah. and then we'll look into the methodologies of the 4 Imams. So this is week 1. Qawaid al-Fiqhiyya, Usul al-Fiqh. I'll explain as we go what are these concepts. I don't think we'll be able to cover that this week, but maybe inshallah next week, next session we'll speak about Qawaid al-Fiqhiyya. This is the principles of fiqh, the fundamental principles of fiqh. We'll cover that as we proceed inshallah. But today our focus will be on the development of fiqh. Where did fiqh come about from? When we say fiqh, what is the first thing that comes to our mind? We think about Imam Abu Hanifa, we think about the Shafi scholars, we think about the difference of opinion in praying. But where did this concept, the concept of fiqh, come from? So let us begin with a poem written by Imam al-Sa'di rahmatullahi alayhi. And this is the book Imam al-Sa'di wrote. Imam al-Sa'di rahmatullahi alayhi, he was the teacher of Sheikh Uthaymeen. So if you heard of Sheikh Uthaymeen, Sheikh bin Baz, so their teacher was Sheikh Abdul Rahman Nasir al-Sa'di or Sa'di. That was his name. And he wrote a book on Usul al-Fiqh. And Usul al-Fiqh is a science that you need to study before you study fiqh. It's a prerequisite before you study fiqh, because it teaches us, or it focuses on the fundamental aspects of fiqh, the principles related to fiqh. How can we understand fiqh? How can we extract a ruling? How can we broaden our understanding on fiqh? He wrote this book on Usul al-Fiqh, but what he did was all of those rulings, he turned it into a poem. So all the rulings regarding Usul al-Fiqh, he turned it into a manzuma. Manzuma means a poem. And in that, he wrote many things. And I'll give an example. He says, "Ad-daruratu tubihu al-mahdhurat," that a necessity makes something which is impermissible, permissible. So something that might be generally impermissible. For example, the consumption of swine. Is it permissible? Of course not. The Quran, we have clear evidence, nas from the Quran, prohibiting it. But under a darura, a absolute necessity, it might become permissible. But now we need to understand what is a darura. Can we just loosely use that term? Absolutely not. This is why he's written this book, Usul al-Fiqh, explaining all those integral aspects of that. And in that, he wrote this manzuma, this poem. And he wrote something very, very interesting. And he says, and he begins the poem by saying, "I'lam hudita anna afdal al-minan ilmun yuzidu shakka anka wa daran." This is very much related to our circle. And I'm beginning with this very poem. He says, "I'lam hudita," know the one who has been guided, the one who has been given the message of Islam, meaning the one who follows the Quran and the Sunnah. Realize, acknowledge, anna afdal al-minan, that one of the greatest favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon each one of us, ilmun yuzilu shakka anka wa daran, knowledge that Allah has given to each one of us, yuzilu shakka anka wa daran, knowledge that removes shak, uncertainty, doubt, wa daran, and filth, impurity. But what impurity are we talking about here? Impurity that comes on one's clothes, impurity that we might see on the street? No, he's referring to confusion within one's heart. So he says, "I'lam hudita," know the one who has been guided, the one who has been given the message of al-Islam. Acknowledge, realize, anna afdal al-minan, one of the great favors upon you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given you knowledge, He has given you the ability to understand, and ilmun yuzilu shak, knowledge that will help you remove doubt from your heart. Referring to the book of fiqh. When you understand fiqh, the more you study fiqh, the more you develop yourself in fiqh, you will realize that doubt is slowly, gradually starting to decrease from you. So much doubt within our hearts when it comes to, we come to the masjid. Many of us, I'll give you a more common example, when we're traveling. We travel all the time. But even then we're confused, oh, is it 48 miles, we do Salatul Qasr, can I combine, can I not combine? All these things, much confusion. But the more you study, you'll realize, especially when it comes to fiqh, yuzilu shak, this uncertainty is removed, and what is placed in its place? Yaqeen. So the opposite of shak is what? Yaqeen. And yaqeen, what does yaqeen mean? Certainty. And what does shak mean? Doubt. In Arabic they say at-taraddud bayna shay'ain, uncertainty between two matters. And that is removed when yaqeen comes in its place. I'll give you an example for us to understand. Yaqeen is 3 types. Yaqeen, ilmul yaqeen, aynul yaqeen, and haqqul yaqeen. Ilmul yaqeen is certainty through knowledge. We know that Jannah exists, right? All of us, when we said amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rasulihi, this is part of our belief. This is علم اليقين. The moment that we said آمنت بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر, واليوم الآخر is Jannah is part of اليوم الآخر. So we believe علم اليقين. Has any of us seen Jannah? No. So this is yaqeen, certainty based on what? The knowledge, the information that has been given to us through the two sacred sources. But then this yaqeen develops gradually. How? Ilmul yaqeen then goes on to Ainul yaqeen. On the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ لِلْغَاوِينَ. On the day of Hisab, people will be able to see Jahannam and Jannah from a far distance. What kind of certainty is that? Certainty through observation, right? So you had certainty in the very elementary stage. That was certainty through knowledge. In the life of this world, we have yaqeen, Jannah exists, Allah exists, we believe in the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But when we actually see, that will be a different yaqeen. That yaqeen is not the same as having yaqeen in your head. That is ilmul yaqeen, ainul yaqeen. Then we have haqqul yaqeen, absolute certainty. When the people will be entering Jannah and Jahannam, then the actual certainty will take place within their life. So these are the three steps within yaqeen. This is just a side note for us to remember. And doubt is the opposite of yaqeen. When there is uncertainty between two matters, and yaqeen is when this uncertainty is removed. So what Imam Sa'di rahmatullahi alayhi is referring to is fiqh is rather a knowledge, a science that removes this uncertainty from a person. Gradually, fiqh is what removes that uncertainty from a person. وَالدَّرَنْ and impurity, confusion from a person. Then he says, وَنِيَّتُنَا شَرْطٌ لِسَائِرِ الْعَمَلِ بِهَا الصَّلَاهُ وَالْفَسَادُ لِلْعَمَلِ. He says, وَنِيَّتُنَا شَرْطٌ, our intention is a condition لِسَائِرِ الْعَمَلِ, for all of our deeds. For our deeds, the most important prerequisite is our intention. بِهَا الصَّلَاهُ وَالْفَسَادُ لِلْعَمَلِ. The acceptance or the rejection of our deeds is dependent upon our intention. And these two couplets here, these two very lines are very, very important for us as we go into the book, inshallah. Why? To really rectify our intention. We often have to revisit the concept of intention. Why are we doing it? Who is it that we're doing it for? Especially as we gather here, what is the purpose behind it? It is self-development, ta'arruf, so that I can acknowledge understanding, and a consequence of that should be that I develop my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is our pure intention for gathering here. If we go to page number 2, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we have what is fiqh, so the explanation of fiqh. If we can quickly read through that, inshallah, just give it about 2-3 minutes, inshallah, and this is where we will have a interactive session, inshallah. So what we understand from fiqh as a person. If we can quickly read through just the top part, what is fiqh? What is qawaid al-fiqhiyya? We'll leave that till later, inshallah. Do you have one of those board pens?
Yeah, that's a board pen there.
Oh, I think this might just be. Don't need the mic now, do you?
I'll just use a handheld one.
Have we all read through it?
Yes.
Okay. Bearing in mind, this session is going to be very relaxed, very informative. As we proceed, next week or the week after, we're going to go straight into the book. So it's going to be a maqra, it's going to be reciting from the actual book itself. But today I just wanted to keep it very casual, introduce ourselves to what is fiqh, what do we understand from fiqh, and how fiqh started, so on and so forth. We'll get into the mas'ala, the rulings and the difference of opinions, what is the more correct opinion, what is the more accepted opinion, the difference of opinion amongst the Sahaba, the difference of opinion amongst the fuqaha, so on and so forth. Perhaps in week 3. Next week, next session, I want us to cover Mustalah al-Hadith. Mustalah al-Hadith is very important when we go to that book. Mustalah al-Hadith is, what does Sahih mean? What does a Sahih Hadith mean? Most of us used to use this term. We say Sahih Hadith, we say Da'if Hadith, we say Mashhur Hadith, we say Mawdu Hadith. How many of us actually know what Sahih is? What are the conditions for a Hadith to be Sahih? What are the conditions of a Hadith to be Da'if? We need to know this before we go to the fiqh rulings itself, because you will find the fuqaha, the 4 scholars, they differed with one another because of the conditions of these wordings. Some of them, they said Sahih, these are the conditions for Sahih. Some of them disagreed. They said, no, we're not going to accept this. This is why they differed with one another. Anyhow, coming back to the short little part that we've read here, what do we understand from fiqh? Any contribution from brothers? What is the first thing that I've just given some idea, but fiqh is much more broad than that. What is the first thing that comes to our mind when we hear the word fiqh? When I was young, when I heard the word fiqh, growing up in Bangladesh or studying in a madrasa, the first thing came to my head was Abu Hanifa. I thought fiqh meant Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi, until I studied more and then I realized, subhanallah, it's not the religion of Imam Abu Hanifa or Imam al-Shafi, Imam Ahmad ibn Muhammad. It's a great, broad concept in itself. But when we as a person, those of us who studied fiqh, we might have not studied fiqh, what is the first thing that comes to our mind when we hear the word fiqh?
To understand.
Some contribution, especially from our professional brothers here, inshallah.
Before today, I understood it to mean the method through which rulings are deduced.
Any other brothers?
To me, it's just the rulings. Ruling.
Which rulings? Any rulings?
What Sharia rulings?
What was the last one? Did you?
Sharia rulings.
Okay. Hey. What was that one? Go ahead.
I just said just ruling. That's what I understand.
Just ruling. Okay. Hey, that's it. We just want random answers, inshallah. That's it. We just want to clear it up, inshallah. That's all it is. Whatever comes to your mind, inshallah. None of us have heard the word fiqh before? Of course we have.
I understand about evidence, find where certain things come from.
Absolutely. When you hear the word fiqh, what comes to your mind straight away? What is it that comes to your mind?
Like straight away comes to my mind, laws and rules in Islam.
I think we see a similarity in all those answers. So we're speaking about Islamic laws, right? That is often the word that comes up. But is fiqh Islamic law? What is Islamic law? That's it. That's it. So now, there's a huge debate between fiqh versus sharia. Is it the same thing? What is sharia?
Sharia is that what seems to be. Sharia is the rules or laws, and fiqh is just to understand the Sharia.
Principles of Islam. Principles of Islam.
What was sharia, according to your opinion?
So Sharia is the rules and regulations of Islam.
Rules and regulations.
Of Islam or religion, and the fiqh is just to understand that, the process of understanding.
We'll come back to that.
Can you see that green? Is that okay?
Yeah. Black would have been better.
This is interactive, brothers. Feel free to say whatever, inshallah.
I understand Allah's law. Sharia.
Sorry, poor writing. Rules and regulation, Allah's law.
Allah's law within the boundaries, but it's
Boundaries of?
Sacred texts.
That's the word you're looking for. Sacred text.
For fiqh, my understanding is analyzing to understand something.
So now we're forgetting about fiqh here. We're looking at the term fiqh here in comparison to this here. Okay.
School of thought.
Sharia
Fiqh.
Sharia is much
Jurisprudence
is linked to that. You can. We're coming back here. If that's what comes to your mind straight away, because it does to many. Mir, brother Mir.
Fiqh versus Sharia.
Sharia is the, we can say the path approved by Allah and His Messenger.
Sent to us in which form? Those laws have been given to us. How? That's it. In a nutshell, the best explanation of Sharia is the two sacred sources, the Quran and the Sunnah. There is no more than that. Simple answer to that, as explained by Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. We don't need to give it a 10-page essay on what Sharia is. Sharia in itself is that what has been revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam through who? Allah Jalla wa Ala. That relationship between Allah and His Messenger and the information that has come through that chain, it is the Sharia. Okay? But now what's interesting here is Sharia is interlinked with fiqh, but how?
Can I point out here?
Yeah.
When we refer to that, even the title of the book that you're going to talk about,
Yeah.
Fiqh or Sunnah.
Absolutely.
So when I talk about fiqh, it's like referring to more specific rule about something. When I talk about Sharia, it's a broader term. The general, term of law. It's not. We don't talk about Sharia of marriage. We say fiqh of marriage. We talk about specific rules and something. Yeah, that's how I see it.
Okay. So Sharia there, we have this. Fiqh here is the rulings that are deduced from the Sharia itself. So there is interrelation. Can we see the interconnection here? Sharia is the two sources, the Quran and the Sunnah. Simple way for us to remember that the Sharia is the two sacred sources which have come through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the law that belongs to Allah. So it is Islamic law. If you were to translate it, the best will be Islamic law. So the laws, the body of laws that have been deduced from the Quran and the Sunnah. From these laws, the rulings that are extracted, that is fiqh. The rulings that are extracted from the Quran and the Sunnah, that itself is fiqh. Bearing in mind, fiqh changes according to the circumstance, according to the time. The ruling can change. Can the Sharia change?
No.
Absolutely not. Sunnat Allah, the Sunnah of Allah, can it change? Of course not. Yet the fiqh can change. This is why there is a difference. So to use Islamic law for this, for fiqh, the translation of fiqh, Islamic law, will be absolutely wrong. And often you'll open English books and you will find fiqh translated as either Islamic jurisprudence, which is correct, Islamic jurisprudence, because we're speaking about the rulings that have been extracted from the Quran and the Sunnah, which is absolutely the answer we're looking for. But if you're going to say Islamic law, then that is wrong, because Islamic law is actually the Quran and the Sunnah, the body of laws, all those important rules within the Quran. Go ahead.
Like in our context, particularly the Western context, when we talk about law, we're actually talking about what we know as hudud. But Sharia is not just hudud. Hudud is
No,
just
it's a broader, it's a much broader.
It's just the boundary.
Hudud is it's a chapter within the Sharia. Sharia is a broad concept. The laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hudud, punishment, zakah, sawm, hajj, so on and so forth. All those aspects are the Sharia itself. But if we're speaking about one certain aspect that needs to be understood, but we need to extract the ruling from it, this is what fiqh is. So if you translate fiqh, a word-for-word translation, it is understanding. Because Rasulullah says, and I brought this hadith right on the first page, he says, the one whom Allah wills any good for, يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. He gives him understanding of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the general meaning. Fiqh means to understand something. But when we bring this terminology, okay, in Arabic we have something called.
I think what you're saying then is lacking in the English language, because law obviously is not as rich and wide as encompassing as fiqh. Because if law is hudud, which is only one part of, sorry, not fiqh, Sharia. So law is only a small part of Sharia. So Sharia is a lot more encompassing than law.
And people, if they get scared But
It's
even
always society
word
law.
Sharia is so, like, if you look at the media, it's so bad, it's like, it's the S word.
Because of the misuse of this terminology. And there's a failing from the Muslim community as well, because we haven't explained what Sharia is the way the ulama have explained what Sharia is. Sharia, simple answer, Quran and Sunnah. Now it has become a fear for the Westerners, Quran and the Sunnah. There are certain rules within the Sharia that might worry them, but not as the whole body itself, right? Okay. يعتمد على السياق, depending on the context. This is a very important principle we need to know. In Arabic, we have something called, if you can understand Arabic, those brothers who've studied Arabic, you know, يعتمد على السياق means depending on the context. As we study fiqh, we must remember fiqh changes. Fiqh is something that we can play around with as opposed to the Sharia. Fiqh is we can adjust it, amend it, depending on the circumstance, so on and so forth, if there is no concrete proof. يعتمد على السياق is a very important principle. It means depending on the context. This ruling is going to be very important as we proceed into the book itself. Depending on the context. Fiqh, generally it means to understand something. However, when we bring this term to Islamic jurisprudence, it's a totally different thing. Fiqh means to deduce rulings from Islamic law, not just understanding. In-depth critical analysis of the two sacred sources, it is what fiqh is. In-depth critical analysis, understanding, thought and study of those important rulings within the religion, this is what fiqh is. So if we say fiqh as just understanding, as what is understood by the Arabs, generally when we say fiqh, that is not the correct term when we study the book of fiqh. It's a total different thing. Go ahead, Sayyid.
I'm just wondering if the English word interpret is an appropriate one, because to give you an example, in this country, Parliament passes the laws, and it's the courts that interpret the law based on the circumstances and everything else. They make rulings. So would interpret be another word? So, for example, fiqh is to interpret the Quran and Sunnah to come to the rulings.
I think interpretation, it won't be safe to use that term, because we're not interpreting the religion, rather we're extracting. So there might be a difference in interpreting and extracting, okay? So
Isn't it the same, but because there is difference of understanding, so it is difference of interpretation. That's why you have put so
if
many.
you see it that way, perhaps. But of course, within the boundaries, okay? Unless if we give a comparison analogy to the system here, of course, there is no boundaries. There is.
Perhaps, I mean, when it comes about education, you read something, if something interesting, something closer to the same thing, a different meaning. But when it comes to fiqh, the scholars come to a conclusion completely unrelated to what the text they actually read. It maybe derive or deduce is perhaps more suitable word.
I think as we proceed, when we look into the methodologies of the scholars, that will answer, inshallah, how sometimes there were clear texts, but the scholars went against that. There were consensus among scholars. Abu Hanifa went totally against that. Khilaf al-Ijma', he went against the consensus of the scholars, so on and so forth. These are the things we will speak about. However, this is a term I want you to remember. If you don't want to write it down, khair, it's okay, but let us remember, depending on context. Arabic language, just we said, is very difficult to translate an Arabic word into English. Sometimes we can't do justice. Like the word fiqh, if you translate that into English, just understanding, no, we can't. It's much broader than that. But bearing in mind, Arabic words, depending on the science that we're studying, on the subject that we're studying, it can have a total different meaning. So fiqh here, the subject that we're studying, fiqh, it's rather deducing laws from the two sacred sources. Now let's move on, inshallah, to the development of fiqh itself. Okay, so when did this evolution begin? When did this idea of this concept of fiqh, at what stage did it begin?
At the time of
Many years after.
Was there a need? Rasulullah, we go back to the time of the Messenger Sallallahu,
Yeah.
but he was present. Was there a need for them to extract rulings?
But was it at that time also people would actually differ and they would,
There was difference of opinion, yes.
like the Salah, the Salah reading, Asr time, while going to on an expedition.
There was one.
Salatul Asr, yes.
They went to one Prophet when they're traveling, they went to the seashore, they were starving, and they had a sea animal there, and they would eat. But because of the condition, they took the decision to eat from that sea animal.
So there was difference of opinion. There was a need for them to understand the Sharia. There was a need for them to understand those two sacred sources. Therefore, they needed to extract rulings from those two sources. But when? During the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? But he was the one who was the legislator, right? He was present in the midst of all those people. So that was actually the foundation period. This is when the foundation of fiqh was actually laid, because there was a difference of opinion amongst the Sahaba. I'll give you an example. Umar ibn al-Khattab and Ammar ibn Yasir, both of them were companions. Who was more knowledgeable? And why do you say that? Do we have a weighing scale of their knowledge? Have we got the measurements?
Well, he spent a lot of time with the Prophet.
Both of them did. He made dua for both of them.
But one Prophet saw in a dream with wearing his garment, dragging his garment.
One Prophet said if there was another prophet, it'd be him.
Okay.
But it
mashallah.
was misunderstanding.
This is fiqh. This is fiqh itself. Okay, bringing forward the evidence. Allah says in the Quran, قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. If you're speaking the truth, bring evidences, inshallah. So as we proceed, that will come handy. Umar ibn al-Khattab, Ammar ibn Yasir. Generally, the scholars of hadith, like Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, Imam Bukhari, they avoided giving analogy between the companions. There was exception with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Rasulullah said, he's my Khalil, very close to me. Umar, لو كان نبي من بعدي لكان عمر would have been a prophet. These are distinctive, but generally, this is something that the scholars avoided, because radiallahu anhum wa radu. Allah is pleased with all of those companions who saw the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they accepted him. So we, as the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we shouldn't bring comparison generally, oh, he was the greatest and he was the greatest. This is not the correct approach. But I just thought of that point. So Umar ibn al-Khattab, Ammar ibn Yasir, both were noble companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were on a journey, both in the state of major impurity. And if we're in a state of major impurity, what is the most important thing that we need to do without delaying? Is delay permissible? When? No, but is delaying, we haven't come into the story itself, is delaying, but that's another masala we need to know.
Delaying is permissible.
Really?
Because
Can a Muslim be in a state of major impurity for a long period of time?
well, it depends. I mean, for example, a night. The sunnah was to do wudu, and then you could do al-ghusl in the morning.
Generally, we're not speaking about sleeping, generally.
Generally,
The majority of scholars say you can't be in a state of impurity. Only if there is no water. If there is no water available,